I don't know what you're talking about because this isn't even a show.
The show, yeah, this is not a show.
No, it's not even a connection. And here I am, though, and yet here I am talking to my old friend, not in age. Oh man, although we are getting old, man.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
you still got a lot of nice dark, dark hair, though. You lucky duck. I'm getting all white.
I'm not too far behind you. It's kind of hard to see when I'm in the dark, but it's coming in, and it really shows if my hair grows out, but most of it's fallen out.
Oh, mine's getting there. I hate doing these things because it's like, man, so much space between those little. Feel like feel like the hair gel's just barely holding on there, holding things together.
But at least you got something to hold on to. And
For
there's
now. For now. So what was your week like, man?
um, it's it's been busy.
Yeah. Is it
Um,
starting to really pick up or just the complications are getting worse?
it's it's a combination of complications combined with we know we're sort of pulling out of this pandemic and trying to prepare for the future, but we're not out, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's
Yeah.
that added complication. I'm onboarding some new therapists. That is time
Mm.
consuming. I was in Knoxville yesterday and the day and yesterday and Monday. I had to leave the COVID free zone of Bristol, Tennessee,
Oh wow.
down into the.
Completely COVID free. How long has it been COVID free?
Well, I use that as a joke. I had seen a Facebook acquaintance refer to Unicoi County as the COVID free zone. And when I went to Knoxville, where people were still very much practicing social distancing, mask wearing, wearing gloves, but they're out and about.
Hmm.
It had a different feel, different
Yeah.
vibe.
Yeah. That's interesting because typically out here in the suburbs, I think I'd say it's more of the Knoxville feel. And then I went into, and maybe it was just because it's getting warmer, but I went into Evanston. It's a further north suburb. It's like a Gold Coast suburb, and just like so many fewer people were social distancing. It sort of, I was like, wow, okay,
Mm-hmm.
like a lot less masks. I don't know what that's about. Like I said, it might just be the man. Maybe I'm. Woo. No. Okay. Anyways, so let's get down and dirty. I want to talk today.
Down and dirty
I
with
don't know if
Judah.
I don't know if there's many more people I would want to talk about this topic with, but I enjoyed
Thanks.
our talking about masks last time, and I was thinking, what would I like to pick Josh's brain about? Well, what about church and going
Mm-hmm.
back to church?
Mm-hmm.
Because it struck me today as somebody. Oh yeah, you saw I posted about the Catholic Church priest talking about how I forget what something about like the grocery stores are open.
Was it
Why
Home
can't?
Depot? Yeah, if Home
Oh yeah,
Depot's open,
Home Depot is open. Why can't
why
I
can't?
open my home,
Yeah.
Jesus or something?
Um,
It was a little. It was.
it
It was
it
trolling.
begs
It was
it,
trolling.
a little bit, but it does beg a question. And even that, I'm not sure that there's really. I guess I'm personally not convinced there's a hard and true answer as far as like when is the most appropriate time to cease quarantine.
Yeah.
However, the fact that some things are considered essential and other things or other
Mm.
organizations or activities are deemed non-essential, it begs a question about what the standard is for that.
Yeah. Well, two
um,
things that I've heard. Oh, I don't know why buying lumber and nails is essential. I don't. But but I did hear an interesting pushback was that, well, we can't keep the kids from social distancing at church. I mean, I think I could keep my kids social, not keep them from, so keep them social distancing, keep them from slobbering all over each other.
Yeah. Uh,
Whereas you can go into the store and not take the kids. I think that's.
mhm. That's true. That's true. I had this discussion, a very similar discussion. I think it was over the weekend with Latasha, with my wife. That because she was wondering like, well, when are our bishops going to open things back up? And I think that still remains to be seen. And I said, within the Orthodox Church, there are some strong voices that are calling out against, I guess, and again, begging the question of what's the standard
Mm-hmm.
of what's essential and what's not. And my big takeaway was I hope that when we're on the backside of this, that we can look at it in hindsight with an open mind, in the sense that maybe there were things that we could have done differently or things that we could have learned. If there was some way, I don't know. I guess I just want to keep an open mind that, was there a way that we could have gathered together as a worshiping body physically?
Yeah.
That wasn't necessarily everybody, but wasn't necessarily nobody or a very limited number of people.
Well, so the problem for me is not having anywhere to take. So say that we can't take anybody into our homes, although I have. Where do I meet with people? Where I'm dealing with people sort of on the edge all the time, and part of what I do is bringing people into the building to talk with them, as a therapeutic mentor, but also as somebody who's reaching out to neighbors and friends, where, if a leper came to me, where would I bring him? Do I have support from my church body? And how does that work out?
That's a difficult question to answer. And I guess that from my end of things, the issue of church is certainly beyond just simply hearing a message or participating in prayer.
Yes.
But in a sacramental church where things are intimately tied to matter, space and time and stuff, wine and bread and oil and water and such, that's anti-virtual. It's non-virtual. It's very real. And most, I think, appropriately would argue is essential.
Well, and the thing is, even if you have approximation of it, let's just for the sake of argument, we have approximation. We're all doing it together or whatever on Zoom or whatever.
Yeah, the Zoom Eucharist.
Okay.
No. Sorry, but you were saying.
Okay. Beyond that, though, it's nearly impossible to comfortably invite someone into that. It's just. My friend, our friend Ford has a much worse phrase for it, but it's a closed circle that you cannot invite people into, and it's perhaps it is mutually beneficial, but it's hard to invite other people into that. I mean, I've shared a link, with people, but it's odd. And it's not very conducive, I would say.
It doesn't sound very inviting.
Right. Yeah. I mean, because what is the etiquette? Like, hey, everybody, wait a minute. I've got a friend here. Boop, boop. Hey, everybody. It's like, it's just.
We're making it up as we go.
I know.
And that's where I guess I go back to, like, in this particular moment, cutting ourselves some slack.
Yeah.
giving ourselves and our neighbors some compassion that let's just assume we're going to mess it up. We're not, there's a high probability we might not do it right, or we might
Yes.
not do it well. And I guess that's my big hope, is that on the back end, we can look back reflectively
Mm-hmm.
with an open mind and go, well, maybe there was a better way to do it, or
Yeah.
just be able to talk about it
Yeah.
without getting defensive, without getting entrenched in a position, but to beg the question, because
Open to the fact that we made mistakes.
we may have made mistakes. There could have been different or better ways to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in
Because,
addition to pushing back that someone else has determined by some unknown standard what is or is not essential.
yeah.
I guess that's my big issue, is like, how is Home Depot essential,
Yeah.
but the church is not? And my
Well,
wife
and
brought
it's
up
go ahead.
a good point, in the sense that, like, most Americans do not think sacramentally,
Right.
do not think within the context of, well, I'm just going to be blunt, incarnationally, flesh and blood, and
Mm-hmm.
and where that leads to in in the epicenter of worship. Typically churches worship songs and a message, which, yes, you can broadcast that. I mean, if you are if you're not in liturgy, right, the work of the people, then which is an active thing.
Yeah.
Like, you're an active participant. You're not a passive receiver of the liturgy.
Right.
Ideally, because it's possible certainly to show up and be a passive participant in the liturgy, but generally from a broad Protestant perspective, you can be a relatively passive participant, participant in worship,
Yes.
um, in a sense. So
Well,
there's a cultural, from my perspective, there's also a cultural issue there as well. But,
we'll say more about that. What do you mean?
well, the typical mindset about what worship is predominantly from a Protestant perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So the dominant culture thinks in that schema. It thinks within that framework. So for those folks that are, say, they're Roman Catholic, Orthodox, Anglicans, High Church Lutherans, the occasional Reformed folk,
Mm-hmm.
um, maybe even, dare I say, some Campbell Stone, Restorationist movement type Christians of the Church of Christ, Disciples of Christ stripe, where they might have a slightly more sacramental view of the Lord's Supper. Um, it, yeah, it doesn't make it doesn't seem like it's an issue to just be virtual.
Right.
Um,
Well, see, and that's the thing that bothers me so much about our church shutting down, is except for Zoom, is that we are a more sacramental, more liturgical church, and we do believe in a much more incarnational participation of the sacraments and the worship, and but worship to me is the wrong word. It's more of like a participatory. It is worship, but it's I mean, it's a sacrifice that we make. So, to be together and to participate in a physical liturgies,
sure.
acts of worship.
Well, I mean, does that really go back to the nature of the word church? Like,
Yeah.
not just to be called out,
Mm-hmm.
but to be called together.
Yeah. Well, and it's hard for me to. So this is the thing, is that I don't see a problem with putting that on hold for a week, 2 weeks,
Yeah.
stretch it to a month. Okay, that's getting a little, but now it seems to be indefinitely. Um, Not only that, but there's a fear now. Not
Mm-hmm.
only a fear of getting sick, but a fear of um, a fear of having a negative witness on those in our community. A perceived, a perceived sense that we are doing this out of selfish reasons and putting people into harm,
Hmm.
instead of we are a church that wants to help our neighbor.
I guess I can understand that fear. There's a part of me that just goes, I don't think worship has anything to do with that.
Hmm. Do tell.
Um, it- it's certainly an appropriate and necessary and needful and wonderful and dutiful thing to serve one's neighbor.
Hmm.
But the worship of the Almighty Triune God, um, that's not those are different things. It's like apples and
Hmm.
oranges. Yes, they're fruit, but they're different things. One of the things that I think I hear from my corner of the world is the some of it may be on the verge of conspiracy theory, but rightly so to another degree, that a government body is declaring that you cannot worship. Period. Together.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but and again, going back to begging the question, but Home Depot's open. It's okay to go to Home Depot,
Yeah.
but you can't worship the living God in the place that you typically do so with other people. Now, I don't want to stretch that too much because, like, at least like I'm going to use my own personal example here in Tennessee. Like there is a small representative portion of the worshiping body that gathers in church,
Hmm.
um, to actually carry out the services live, and that's broadcast.
Hmm.
Um, but there's just no way to get around. It's just not the same, at least for me personally.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's the same for anybody. I feel a growing. I mean, just talking to people, the admission that it is prevalent that there is a growing discomfort with Zoom. We talked about the problems with it, but
Yeah.
what do you say to the First Peter 2:12 and First Peter 2:15 argument that that Peter's admonishing us to live so that when we talk so that when non-Christians in our community talk about us,
Mm-hmm.
the way we live shows that they are wrong.
Okay. Well, um, all I can say about that is the early church was accused of drinking the blood of infants,
Hmm.
um, but that didn't stop them from celebrating the liturgy.
It's true. Yes. But what
Uh,
about when it's so tied into the actual? I likened it into because actually I was talking to a friend earlier about it because of a discussion about Marxism. How could so many people buy into Marxism when it's done such devastating harm to so many people?
well, that's because like all good heresies, there was a half truth in there,
Right. And that
right?
was my point. There is some truth in the fact that we are helping other people by not I guess there is by social distancing. We're obviously helping the people that would come to our church that are over 70, right? That are more vulnerable,
Mm-hmm.
that maybe have comorbidities. I guess, but my problem with that is that I think it's important for us to individually and as small groups discuss whether or not this is truth or not, and whether or not this is
Mm-hmm.
something that is something we want to live out. I don't feel like we've done that. I don't know if you've done that in your church, but like not as a community, as families, not
Mm-hmm.
as a part of the wider church in America, not part of not part of liberals, Democrats, Republicans, conservatives, but our families get together and say, what do we believe, and
Mm-hmm.
how do we respond to this? You know?
Yeah, that's the part. since everyone's still distancing, I'm still waiting for a lot of those conversations to happen.
I
Other than
I
like you and I are having this conversation,
yeah.
like I've got some close friends that we socially distance on. I socially distance on his back porch. Uh, yeah, I've got a buddy of mine that I'll probably hook up with on Friday, and we're gonna socially distance. Um,
Oh, see, many of my friends are done with the social
yeah,
distancing.
yeah. Well, I say so. Yeah, I'll sit 6 feet away, and the conversation is going to continue, and I think that's a thing. Like that I'm going to keep going back to. I don't know if we're getting it right. I don't know if we're getting it wrong. I
Mm-hmm.
think hindsight isn't always 2020, but it tends to be clearer. Um, uh, in a sense of my own, of a confession, like, are there ways I've failed in lots of ways to be um, the domestic church, right? I mean,
Mm.
like, if the church is a colony of heaven, is my home a heavenly colony? Well, not as much as it could be.
Mm.
And is that the place where the light shines and my neighbor's going to see it? And to go back to First Peter, you know, that I think is going to be the big takeaway for unbelievers.
Mm.
For those that are outside of the faith, that looking at how we love one another and care for one another in a time of need. I think there is an aspect of the fact that we took this seriously and we have obeyed,
Mm-hmm.
um, the earthly institutions,
Mm-hmm.
often to the letter. Yet
Mm.
at the same time,
Interesting.
I still go back to, I don't know if we're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
If Home Depot is, I think that there is something about that sign that struck me, that I was just like, you know what? If it's okay to go to Home Depot but not okay to go to God's house, it does make you have to stop and scratch your head.
Yeah.
Whose gods are really more important here?
Yeah.
Or if there are if there are very specific restrictions on
Mm.
churches, why isn't there a specific restriction on Home Depot? Why isn't there a limitation on the number of people that go to Lowe's?
Well, I think
Uh,
that's a growing thing. I think there are more and more limitations on those places.
oh,
Yeah, maybe it's self-imposed.
maybe in Chicagoland. I went to Lowe's on Saturday
Yeah.
because I wanted to grab some things for the garden, and I walked in, I grabbed some light bulbs and some plastic watering cans because we were out, and that place was so off the chain. What I actually came there to get, I did not get. I was going to grab some mulch and some like black cow, manure slash compost, and I was like, you know what? There are no carts. The line out in the garden center, I'm not joking, was like 50 yards long. It was
Interesting.
insane, insane. So I was like, I gotta go.
Wow. Really?
Yeah,
What and even if you take it to a smaller degree, well, we got some comments. Let me hit the comments really quick.
we love some
Aline Rangu, guy I work with, awesome guy. No, so
Judah Buddha is the best, or he's
so
getting better. How about that?
I saw that Aline and Ovi liked or something the video. So both of them are Romanian, are part of the Romanian churches here that are, I would say, rebelling against the dictates.
Um,
Um,
yeah, Romanians might do that. I've heard.
they are
Um,
doing it.
I bet the Serbs are doing the same thing. They tend to be like the Russians. Many of the Russian churches have just been like, we're just going to worship Jesus, and you all will deal with it.
Well, the powers that be here, our wonderful mayor and governor, are threatening litigation, threatening law. Well, they're threatening to drag people out into jail and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Jeff says, "Isn't that happening right here?" I guess he's referring. Well, that was back when we're talking about why aren't we having more discussions. Well, I guess the difference for me is, although I love this discussion, it isn't really going to affect necessarily. I'm not talking with people in my community right now, although I hope to be in Josh's community soon, one day soon.
We're not
I'm
far away.
coming back to. I don't know if Jeff, if you're still, are you still in North Carolina? Because I'm coming back to North Carolina. He's old friend from high school. But but I think what I'm talking about is more like within the church, people getting together and saying, "Hey, is it time or not? What are we doing here?" you know, like, and I'm sure like pastors and stuff are doing that, but I think it sort of leaves the rest of us kind of like, whoa, is church important or what? you know?
Well, and I think that's the big battle cry I've heard is that the worship of God has become non-essential. It's been put by the government into a non-essential category.
Mm-hmm.
And again, going back to the church sign, there's some validity to that statement. If Home Depot is open but the church is closed,
Hmm.
how did it get that way?
Yeah.
And again, I don't have an answer for that, but I do think it's a fascinating question.
Yeah. I agree, because I've heard those say that, hey, the governor is just trying to help. He's just trying to protect us. And okay, even if I'm to accept that, and I'm
Yeah,
not sure I do, but even okay, hey, in good
let's
faith,
assume that's true.
yeah. Well, how come he's not protecting the people? I have several people that I work with, that clients and friends that work at grocery stores. These people, I love them to death, but I go visit them and their masks are down to here. They're touching everything. Everything is, they're not 6 feet away.
Yeah.
They're not dying, but it's okay for the governor to put them in danger.
Mhm.
That is essential. And
or to make
food is essential, but the same thing goes for Home Depot. Those people are touching everything,
I think Home Depot is a great example though.
Yeah.
Like how essential is Home Depot, or in what way is Home Depot essential?
Yeah.
Is it essential
Or
enough that
Walmart.
everyone can just, go plumb wild and
Yeah.
pretend like it's a normal business day? Or
Well,
Walmart.
Faith is back. Thank you, Faith, for tuning in. She had
I
some
don't
good input
hug
last time.
everyone at Home Depot.
She doesn't hug everybody. Well,
Hi, Faith.
I don't think we have. I mean, I'm not going back to church to hug people. I think that's the key. Now, can we keep our kids from hugging each other? I think we can, but
We can.
we're not going to church to hug each other. We're going to church to participate in something that's more than we are. We're going to participate in something sacred, right? Would you agree?
At a minimum, yes.
At a minimum. At a
Yes.
maximum, what is, say more.
It's an utterly transcendent and cosmological event.
That can't be replicated on Zoom? Question mark?
That's an interesting question.
I would say it can for a week or two.
I I I don't know.
Okay,
I,
well, while you're thinking about that, Jeff says he is in North Carolina, back from Nastyville. Well, Jeff, we're gonna have to hang out. He
Little big
said there,
town.
yeah, there is a point where we go underground. Well,
That has been thrown out there.
I I've gone underground. um, uh, and Martise, the singing. Do you remember Martise? The singing at church is dangerous, though. Well,
And I think honestly, if there is an argument for the safety, yes,
mhm.
singing at church is probably the most dangerous thing with regard to an airborne virus. I'm not sure if I'd be too concerned about hugging people.
Hmm, interesting.
I would be more. I would agree with that statement. That I would be more concerned about lots of people exhaling, um,
And less hugging.
and less exhaling, more hugging. Like just boom,
Yeah.
and kiss a piece, boom, boom, off you go. Um,
Well, I wouldn't.
I don't
I
know.
don't feel like singing has become sorry, in Protestant churches, singing has become the penultimate. But I feel like I could go without singing and still have plenty of good participation in the liturgy, right? And participation with the sacraments and this holy experience, right? Singing isn't necessarily that important. Or is it?
I don't know. I think singing is probably essential.
It's
But
not a sacrament,
no,
so it's not essential.
it's. I'm not sure. I'm going to be orthodox here and just say I'm not quite sure if we can begin to separate those things. Like
Okay,
they all
okay,
go together. They're all one big
okay.
thing.
I see what you're saying.
You know, um,
The experience in toto
and
is the
yeah,
sacrament. Okay,
it's well, they're part and parcel. Like you can
right.
differentiate. Like
Yeah,
yeah, but I don't know.
but we're talking about a cosmic experience here, which includes various expressions that singing. I still don't know if it's necessary, but it's certainly important.
It definitely important.
Okay, now the comments starting to blow up. Um, all right, I gotta catch up so I can keep up with them. Oh, so Sam Tenuta, hey Sam, thanks for checking in again. Faith and hope saves lives. So that's where
I,
it gets sticky because what about these churches that met and people died?
where are those again?
I don't know. People posted on Facebook.
Oh, okay.
Calvary
Now,
Church or
I think
something.
Sam does have a good point. I mean, there are without even going online and exercising my Google foo, spirituality and religious participation, faith and hope have positive benefits to everyone's mental wellness. Full stop. Mic drop. That's just true.
Yes,
Period.
agreed. Although, again, if we're doing that over Zoom, now bigger churches that are over 20 people, 20 households,
Sure.
obviously that's Zoom's not really. I don't know what's the max, maybe 30 or 40 on Zoom, maybe.
Oh no, you can blow Zoom up, man.
Oh, how many?
I don't know. I know they do webinars that can easily do like 500 people.
No, get out of here. 500 people on Zoom?
Yeah.
Okay, but at a certain point, there's a point of diminishing returns, right?
Well, I suppose. I don't know.
Well, the reason we do Zoom is instead of just broadcasting, is
You can see each
because
other, or
we can participate with each other and talk
uh,
to each other. And
okay.
as a sacramental, as a liturgical church, it's really important to participate.
Send each other like messages in the
No,
service, or
talk
you
and
can
stuff,
look.
and
Oh, you
take
talk. Okay.
turns. We take turns, leading things,
Oh,
and
okay. I got you.
um,
So I see it. So you're really doing church on Zoom.
yes, yes.
Gotcha.
Um,
Gotcha. Okay.
let's see. Oh man. Okay, I don't know. I might have to just pick and choose here. Um, what about things like 12-step meetings? How can those be considered essential? Wait, are they? Oh, how can they not be considered? Oh, yeah. Well, 12.
The,
I consider 12-step meetings
there have been okay. Well,
quasi church. Yeah.
um, I suppose one could believe that.
What I mean is there are some good. Yeah. All right. Yeah. But
Now, I'll say this: a 12-step meeting. Honestly, there have been phone and virtual 12-step meetings for as long as there's been the internet.
yeah, that's
And
true.
if there is, I mean, as far as a meeting, I guess in my opinion, that things like Zoom, that actually can be used pretty well for group meetings.
But for how
It,
long?
it, well, for some people, that's a lifeline. Like they
Yeah.
were doing that before this pandemic.
But but
N-
but as a
that
PRN
being
type thing,
said,
right?
mm, no, I mean,
No.
it
Oh,
just
that being
depends on
said,
one's lifestyle. That being said, there is it is, as we all are aware, it's just a different. Your nervous system comes into contact with other people's its presence, right? So Being
Yeah.
in the presence of other people has got a whole other thing going on. There's a whole other layer of experience happening
Yeah.
in a live meeting with other people.
Yes, and maybe in a so maybe in a medical sense or even psychological sense, video I think can get you there. But when it comes to an experience with God, I think we need that nervous system, we need that physical, we need the more magic touch of presence
Like hugging.
to understand and to be reminded of God's presence. I because to me, Zoom presence
Yeah.
is shaping the way I see God in a strange. It's much more robotic God, you know. When I think about him, in the way that Zoom is shaping my, I would say my
Eh,
feelings about religion, about theology, and therefore about God, is starting to get a little more metallic, a little more. I don't know. There's something about Zoom without the physical presence, without the hugs.
some hugs. So, exactly.
Um,
That's right, Faith. He needs hugs.
I do. I look.
He
I've
d-
been hugging. I ain't
he
social.
does he does he needs some hugs.
I do social distance. I want to say I do social distance around those with the more vulnerable. But with some of my younger friends, I'm sorry, we hugging. Um, our church has been going. Our church. So Lauren Esparza, thanks for joining.
Hi, Lauren.
Oh, she said, "Yep, you can do big conferences like that on Zoom."
Yep.
Well, color me uh, I something. Our church has been doing service on YouTube for everyone. Yeah, yeah. So this is, and then meeting. Oh, interesting. And then meeting afterwards to pray and talk. See, I I will say that smaller groups on Zoom, that may be the way. Oh no, because we even did that and it wasn't better. Yeah, just a lot of screen time. And then Allison says, you say faith and hope are good for mental health. 12-step meetings can be even more so. It's not the same to meet in person. We just
It's
get
different.
the.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
110%. It's the same thing with psychotherapy, with talk therapy.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Say
It's
that
just
again. You told me something last time that sort of blew my mind. I hadn't thought about. Is the different.
sure.
What were we talking about? The different part of the brain when we
Oh,
Zoom or whatever?
oh, well, like, it's predominantly prefrontal. You're using the majority of the front part of your brain, prefrontal cortex. So it's highly verbal. You're not using the rest of your brain and your body to read verbal cues, nonverbal cues,
Mm-hmm.
like how people are presenting themselves. You're not using your whole body to communicate, not only from yourself, but also to receive what you're is being communicated by another person.
Mm-hmm.
And there is that aspect of presence. No, I agree. Um, it again, virtual 12-step meetings can be a lifeline for many people,
Yeah.
but yes, it is. Are they the same as in-person meetings? No. I have been to 12-step meetings where the feeling in the room was palpable. You could touch it.
Mm.
Um, it but that's true. Yeah, that's part of being human. It's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and no, we cannot replicate that. I think on rare occasions, and I'm going to speak from personal experience. Like I've done some relationship coaching online. I've done some counseling as a client online.
Mm-hmm.
Some of which was, yes, very much more of the cognitive end, but I've gotten smacked in the face, full on emotionally and in an embodied kind of sense, interacting with another human being through Zoom.
Mm.
Those are very rare moments, but they can happen. Um, so, I don't want to rule the whole thing. I don't know. I want to beg the question. I want to keep an
Yeah.
open mind. I want to be able to look back and go, there could have been better ways to do this. I do think it's great to just hold the question out there and feel some discomfort around how is it that Home Depot is open but the church is closed.
Mm. Amen. Sam says, "Yep, churches have done some great work via telemarketing, telemeeting, platform, but people
Oh,
who benefit from personal connection, people? Some of my best friends are atheists, but they still go to church events due to the focus on good and helping of others. Back to work. Enjoy." Oh, okay. Well, thanks for joining us,
thank you,
Sam.
Sam.
That's a good point, and that's the thing that bothers me. Maybe I think whereas your theological problem with worship on Zoom probably bothers you more, to me is inviting non-believers to
Hmm.
Zoom is just a non-starter.
Sure.
It's
I, I
and
I I don't disagree with you.
I wish, look, I would be much more amenable. Here's the other thing. I'd be much more amenable to social distancing if the church was open, and even social distancing in the church, if we continued to have our rhythms as a people,
Hmm.
as righteous people, as saints, I mean.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, I at this point, I have to bring them into my home, which to me seems,
Hmm.
isn't the church there to a certain extent so that we don't have to always bring the leper into our home? It gives us a place. What? No, what?
I don't think so.
No, you don't think what? I don't.
I mean, yeah, so what does a leper need?
What does a leper need? Okay,
Yeah.
well, I use the term leper, but people with COVID or people that may have COVID are not
Yeah.
necessarily leprous. They're
Sure.
it's like the invisible leper. Like they
Oh,
probably don't even have it,
well,
but
so, and I guess, I hear what you're saying about having a place to bring people. Um,
and deriving
I,
support from other saints, fellow
yeah,
fellow, you know.
encouragement, right? Like
Hmm.
mutual encouragement.
Hmm.
That certainly is something that can be a challenge
Yeah.
virtually.
Hmm.
Um,
And I'm
of
not
course,
necessarily what.
I come from a way, I guess, of thinking and approaching that again, that like the liturgical worship of the church does not exist for unbelievers. It's not to
Hmm.
say that folks that are outside the church can't step in or appreciate, but it does not. That's not the end.
Hmm.
Like it's not a place to invite people to
Hmm.
by design. Like, and it's not to say that it's supposed to be off-putting, but
Hmm.
it is, you know, the calling of God's people together. Hence, like emphasis on the word God's people, or the phrase God. We're calling. But where do people? I don't know. Where I think I have seen or heard the most effective forms of evangelism have been in people's homes.
Hmm.
Um,
Well, but
I don't
see,
know. I don't know.
if well, look, if you were to say no more structured, so say COVID ends structured building type church time. I don't
Forever.
care. Forever. I'm actually thinking about leaving as we are leaving this community, leaving this area, leaving behind the idea of structured church building type. Now, not leaving behind sacrament or liturgy, but doing it in home churches. Not
Mm-hmm.
not meaning just in my home, but families coming together in homes like the early church. This is what Faith points out. Because I'm not necessarily talking about a building here. I'm just
The
talking
early
about a.
church was all in homes. That's sort of true.
So, oh, say more. What do you
Well, I
mean?
mean, we just read the Book of Acts.
Yeah.
Yes, they are in homes, right? But they're
Mm-hmm.
also meeting in the porch of the temple.
Mm.
So and that becomes difficult because you have this fun period of time when the temple is still in existence.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the earliest house churches are actually very church-like.
Mm-hmm.
If you look up the excavations that were done at Dura Europa, um, in Syria, that not only is there baptistry, they're icons. Uh,
Yeah. Interesting. Really, how
yeah, it
how
didn't take the
early was
church
it?
very long to get um, early second century.
Okay.
So less. I mean, we're talking, I think, 100 years,
Okay. Interesting.
which is built right next door to a synagogue of
Hmm.
also very similar construction and not too dissimilar iconography. Uh, so Dura Europa, so just so you know, Dura Europa was a Roman outpost.
Okay.
They filled in, if I remember correctly, the synagogue and this church building with rubble to
Hmm.
bolster the walls because the building these buildings were set against the town walls. The town, I guess, it was overrun, and then as time went by, it was covered over sand.
Interesting.
So it's extremely well preserved.
Hmm.
Um, but no, but yes, the church,
Huh.
the church does, and it did. We met in catacombs, we met in
Hmm.
homes, and as
Yeah.
time went on, things got a little bit bigger and more complex and more sophisticated. Um, but you're
Hmm.
saying you're thinking of kind of rolling it back. Um,
Yeah, going back to more smaller. I feel like it's going to be difficult to go back to normal or whatever, not just not just politically, but for people to feel comfortable. Um it's going to be a year or so before people, especially people that are over 50, over 60, to join
mm-hmm,
in with
sure.
now home church in my place is not going to be too bad in North Carolina because my parents are, I mean, they're anti social distancing. So like they are, and my dad is anti social distancing.
He will hug people in Home Depot.
Well, he never hugged people before, but I don't know.
He will not hug
Hey.
people in Home Depot. Not a huggy guy.
um, he's but maybe yeah, he's a huggy guy, but not strangers, not not in public, I guess, not very much.
Yeah.
Um, it's interesting that hugging has become a focal point of the discussion. Do you
Who would have
hug a
thought?
lot at church?
Um, I have to think about that.
Because I
Not,
do.
not necessarily. Now, I'm a hugger.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
if you were one of my friends, you will get hugged. There's a high likelihood there will be a hug. Um,
It's always a big bear hug. First time I see you. It's been a while, but
it's been too long.
it's been too long. It'll be soon enough. Not enough, but
No,
um.
there's a high probability that I will see you face to face
So
in the near future.
yes, yes. Um, but the thought came to mind when we talked about hugging. So we do passing the peace, and usually it's peace Christ be with you, and also with you. We go
Okay.
around. We have a segment. It's a part of our liturgy, um, and I forget that I am quite a hugger. So like I'll go in for the close or even
Mm-hmm.
just a hug,
Mm-hmm.
especially with the kids,
Mm-hmm.
and um, but most people, I'm usually getting in there. Um, and I wonder what that will look like going forward, because people are saying that the handshaking is over. I don't believe that, but I've heard it bandied about that there shall be no more
Yeah, well,
regular shaking of the hands.
I yeah. How long have we been shaking hands?
Yeah,
I don't know the answer to that question. I,
I
I
don't either.
assume we've been doing it for a very long time. And there have been pandemics prior to this. Now, obviously, we
Mm.
know more about disease. Um,
Do we
I,
though? I feel like we've never known less about disease. I feel
I,
like every day there's something different that contradicted the last thing.
we're creatures of habit. We'll go back to handshaking,
Yes,
I'm
yes,
sure, and
absolutely.
hugging. Um,
Yeah.
But hopefully everyone will wash their hands more. This is a good takeaway. Wash your
Yeah,
hands more
there's nothing
frequently for
nothing
20
wrong with that.
seconds. That's a good thing.
Yeah,
Um,
the 20-second thing has helped me lately. I realized I was not doing it for 20 seconds before. I was doing it. I'm a germaphobe in some ways, so I was doing it a lot. But it's like, oh, it felt a little longer than I was used to. So I was like, oh, I guess I wasn't doing 20 seconds.
ah.
We say, is it the Lord's Prayer? I think it takes 20 seconds to say. I don't know. We have something
Yeah.
up on our wall. I think it's the Lord's Prayer, but I don't know if we say it once or twice. Anyways, well, we're at the 50-minute mark, and I feel like we have pretty much discussed
We've beat that
the
horse.
hug out of it.
Yeah.
Is anything, any thoughts that came up that a lingering thought, if you will?
No, I mean, again, I just want to, have us all sit in the ick and the discomfort of asking the question, how is it that Home Depot is open, yet God's house is closed?
Hmm.
And why?
Yeah.
Um, and what's the standard there? What?
Hmm.
I don't know.
Hmm. Well, and at what point do we stand up to the powers that be without? I mean, obviously, we stand up to the powers that be when they ask us to renounce our faith. But what about when they tell us to quit practicing our faith?
And and are those two different things?
Yeah.
That
Hmm. Well, obviously, if it's just for 2 weeks or a month for safety purposes,
mhm.
I really had no problem with it. I was actually
Sure.
excited about getting a little break for a while.
Like
Um,
we know the peak's coming.
yeah.
Let's flatten the curve.
Yeah. But,
But now that the curve has been relatively flattened, now what?
if, yeah. 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 And there's much more
Or
conversation about that.
sure,
But I do think it's time. It is time for us to start asking, like you said, sitting with the icky question of, okay, Home Depot's opening up, bars are starting to open up. When and how does the
well,
church
as we
open up?
all know, at least in Virginia, well, everywhere, yes, Home Depot, hardware stores essential, liquor stores, oh, that's essential.
That never closed. Oh, that was never even a question,
Like we because it's for medicinal purposes.
right? All right. Well, it's been another good conversation with Captain Blackburn. Do you have any big plans? So, I actually haven't heard. How do you guys do church now?
Very not too dissimilar to what Lauren was saying. So it's broadcast,
Mm-hmm. And then you break
and
up into.
well, there's like a virtual coffee hour, and like some of the
Mm,
church school, like the kids have gotten together on Zoom meetings, and then but a lot of them have been doing that independently, just to get together and hang out, and um,
mm,
but it's not the same. I'm just
yeah.
it's not. It's just not my cup of tea. Um,
Yeah.
so.
I don't know whose cup of tea it really is at this point, but there may be some. I wonder if more extroverted people, more shyer people, benefit from it being a more structured, safer type.
That's not my lived experience, so I can't speak to that.
Not my lived experience. I like
So
that.
go to the comments. Is anyone out there really enjoying virtual church?
Yeah, yeah. Speak up if you really love it, because we want to
Like,
hear your side. I feel,
I can say this from from the world of mental health, like people that are really thriving right now, folks that were having some social anxiety
yeah,
struggles,
yeah.
like this. the introverts, some of the introverts, many of the introverts, it's the joke of like they've been preparing for this all of their lives, where they
The
can just stay at
single,
home.
the single ones. Like, I noticed though there is sort of a problem with introverted mothers being stuck with constant, external stimuli. With if they have many kids or
Yeah. Oh, it's a struggle.
extroverted husband, get out of the house.
Get out of here.
Of
Go
course,
for a
I
walk.
our life hasn't really changed much at all. I still go to work. She still teaches the kids. I think the main way it's changed is everybody else around us has sort of gone away, or we see them from a distance.
Hmm.
And it's just there is. I don't know if it helped flatten the curve. I was open to it,
Yeah.
and I still am. That it could have helped, but at this point, quarantine. It's supposed to be 4 days actually. Quarantine. It comes from the 4 day. I think it was the 4 day period of time that they kept people when they came on to the docks in Greece. I think I can't remember, but quarantine. Let's even extend it to 4 weeks. Okay,
Sure.
fine.
40 days.
40 days. Nothing wrong with that, right?
We're past that one.
We're past it.
We have
Let's
surpassed
go.
that. Um,
Okay. Well, next week I will be packing, so I will not be able to join this conversation. But hopefully
y'all,
the week after that we'll be able to get back to the discussions, the weekly discussions, the fireside discussions with Captain Blackburn.
fires. We should get a fire. We should.
Yeah, it's still
Some.
cool enough. Oh, we do
Ooh.
have some comments that
Oh,
have been rolling in about you asked for comments. So I think you guys might enjoy this article. And just posted. It's good to be me. It's good to be
be
a
a
man.
man.
Hmm. Not enough faith to worship. Interesting. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
And then Gordon Hackman says, I wouldn't say I'm thriving on Zoom Church, but there are things that seem to work for me, like seeing and greeting each person as they come on. Well, that is something he does. He gets there early, and sort of a sweet little thing where he will. It kind of makes me like, oh, maybe I should get here early, and like, hey, everybody. It's a connection, is that you can't really have even if you show up to the church real early,
Yeah.
and you don't have a commute. Not that many of us do in this community, but even sometimes 5 minutes can take forever.
Yes, it can.
All right. Well, I will see you in 2 weeks, maybe in person. I don't know. In 2 weeks, that's kind of pushing it.
Yeah.
But one of these days, we'll do one of these in person.
We should do that.
Yeah.
You heading down to North Carolina?
Heading to
Visit your
North
folks?
June 1st. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, that's right around the corner, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Goodbye, May. It's been good.
It it's coming fast and furious. So I bid our viewers adieu and have a wonderful night. Leave a comment. The good thing about Facebook, where we're broadcasting this for the most part, is that every time I think oh yeah, because it's on my Facebook. Every time somebody leaves a comment, it'll give me a little notification. So feel free to continue the conversation, because I certainly am always on Facebook. I need to be more like Josh and take it off my phone. All right, brother. Thanks for your time and wisdom, and
I don't know about that. We're just asking questions, right? It's
thanks for your inquisitive mind, your curiosity. Thanks for your curiosity. I will talk to you later.
sounds good, brother.
Good night, Lauren. She said, real quick.
Good night, Lauren.